Hello, people. How are you? I hope you are all doing fine and well. Okay, so I apologize that I have been missing in action for the past week. Um, Sometimes real life demands attention. So I apologize. But I have been studying and I have been watching. And there's a lot of curious and unusual things about the Kiely Rodni case. It's not getting any better. Now, I wanted to show this picture of the room. This is the press conference from August the 23rd, right after, uh, well, 2 days after Kylie was found by Adventures with Purpose. And you can see her dad is against the dark gray wall. I guess that maybe his wife sitting in the first seat, and then he, and then behind the lady in the blue shirt and the cameraman are other members of the family. And actually, even Sammy Smith was there, Mags was there. Um, so, very odd event. And I wanted to, when I watched it when it happened, I was really uncomfortable. In the same way that I was uncomfortable watching the Sammy Smith interview. Some the, I can't figure out if these people, if they're naturally curious by nature, that this particular location has attracted a group of people that are um, skeptical and untrusting in general, um, or if something went on. I'm just going to lay it out. Some people are really uncomfortable with others voicing their um, trying to think of the right word so I don't get in trouble here. I'm I'm uncomfortable with the press conference. I'm uncomfortable with things that have been said. I don't know what they mean. I'm not making a statement about what it means. Um, I am making the statement that something is wrong here. Something is very wrong. Now, the people that I've got a list of 8 people. There's Troy Sander, there's Angela Musalem, there's Dennis Hack, there's Scott Alford, there's Sam Brown. I mean, I could go all the way through, but in order for this discussion to be manageable, I'm gonna be measured. Okay, I'm gonna do this in an organized fashion so that the discussion it makes sense on what it is that I feel uncomfortable with. So, um, Adventures with Purpose. Okay, of all the people, of all the people that might make me uncomfortable, of all the people that I might think uh, are up to some shady business, uh, Adventures with Purpose is not it. They, to me, they're the answer. They're the solution. They're not the problem, right? They're getting out there. They're making it happen, and they're pulling up slack where other well, primarily FBI and police departments have begun to fall down on the job terribly. Of the group involved in this, Sam Brown, captain, he is a captain. He has gotten his promotion as captain by the sheriff of Nevada County, Sheriff Moon, Shannon Moon, I believe. Um, he's the first one. Now, this guy back here on the left and this guy back here on your right, they're going to get their own discussion. But tonight, I want to focus on things that Sam Brown said and his approach to discussing adventures with purpose in the discovery of Kiely Rodni. This is so damn shady. I can't even. I just, I'm going to tell you, instead of being like careful and measured, I just want to just yell and go, what looks normal to anybody? Like when you're watching this, what part of this even remotely looks normal? You can look at Kiely Rodni's dad and you can see the same thing on his face. He knows something's wrong. He's looking at this and listening to what they're saying, and he's going, something about this doesn't seem right. What the hell are you talking about? Now, here's one thing. This guy is going to say that despite all of the people paddling around in the water, he said we had them in the water swimming and looking down rather than being like down underwater, because we didn't want to like disrupt the silt, that's on the bottom of the lake or the reservoir. They had helicopters, they had drones, they had any manner of witnesses' eyes right here, right where her damn her phone pinged. This is what, and he himself, this guy right here, Sam Brown, he says he's the big investigator. He's the big investigator coming from the big city. He's the one that's supposed to have all this knowledge on investigations, right? You know what he says? He's quoted. He says that you always go, your starting point is the last known location. That's where you start. Your starting point is the the last known location. And then you work out from there. You go to the last verified known location and you exhaust it, quote unquote. And then you move outward from there. Think about this. Because we have adventures with purpose who have proven themselves time and time again, okay? They have 100% built up a company based on their reputation alone. They are unique, and they recognize that one false step, one mistake, one screw up, and their big experiment on independent investigations is going to go down the tube. These guys right here can't wait for groups like Adventures with Purpose to falter. They're waiting for them to stumble. So Adventures with Purpose, they're not only protecting the work they do as being elite and specialized, they're also dramatically protecting a reputation, because that is everything for their company. If they lose their reputation, they lose everything. So when Adventures with Purpose says, we found Kiely, we called the family, that stuck with me. Now, y'all, I'm a psychologist, that, I understand that's weird. People like to make jokes about weird head shrinkers. But to hear the progression of the phone calls was really powerful for me. That this group chose to reach out to Kiely's parents and say, we have found her. And then contacted law enforcement. That screamed information to me. And one of the things that it screamed to me was, what's going on there? You don't trust law enforcement? Like, you're being careful, the narrative, what the information that's going to the parents, you wanted to make sure that the parents got exactly the proper information for what factually took place. You got to remember this. These guys found that car in 35 minutes. Think about that. Think about that. 35 minutes. They had just gotten started. They were settling in for this long crisscross pattern grid search, right? And there was, they couldn't believe it. Why? Because this guy right here, Sam Brown, he went and gave them this mapping. It's this modified grid search that is done improperly. It's not done correctly. Whoops, sorry about that. It's not done properly. A true grid search is methodical, right? You're not trying to rush through. You have a very small area defined as your area, and you look at each teeny tiny centimeter before you move to the next. Because of the how the minutia of that grid search, and it being so highly interdependent on the other people, where it's their square foot next to you, having the ability to use a computer program to track the areas that you have searched methodically, centimeter by centimeter in a square foot, then by having that computer program, you know what has been cleared and what is behind you and what is now in front of you, right? So it's not like it's not like walking a perimeter. It's not like putting one step in front of the other and having a line to show your path. It's more like taking grid paper and a colored pencil and coloring in a whole square before you move to the next square. But it happened with the Suzanne Morphew search, same kind of thing. They're just taking people's phones, GPS, logging in. The computer is tracking where they walk. And you got to realize when you're just walking and you're kind of looking down or maybe even scanning, which is even worse to be just scanning, how much are you actually missing, right? So this guy, Sam Brown, gave to Adventures with Purpose this tracking map that they had developed. And it showed that it was just mass, that it had just had massive searching all around the boat launch where she drove off into the water, that had just been massively searched. And so all the drones and all the helicopters, we've searched this. We're confident she's not here. And that's what Adventures with Purpose says, that came out of his mouth. We're confident she's not here. They said this 55 feet off of the water and under 14 feet of water. We're confident she's not here. So they did actually end up going to 2 other locations to search. And when they came up empty-handed, they were uncomfortable. Adventures with Purpose. They were uncomfortable. And the decision was made, let's do this the way we know how to do it. Don't take guidance from all of these impressive law enforcement groups. They've been looking for 2 damn weeks with what did they say? 19,000. I wrote it down somewhere. 19,000 man hours and 7 helicopters. And I mean, it's just absurd how they want to quote how many men. And, because as far as I can tell, she was found by 2 men in 35 minutes. So your 19,000, man hours, I don't know what you're trying to do with that information, but it looks like a red herring. It just looks it looks like the carnival barker. Don't look over here. Nothing to see here. Look how hard we're working. Look at all that we did. Well, you're going to tell me all of your 7 helicopters, drones, divers from 12 different counties, amateur divers, professional divers, boats, swimmers looking down. You mean to tell us that all of that, a car 55 feet away from where you're standing on ground, you're going to say that 2 men in blow up kayaks with 35 minutes, you're gonna somehow say that their equipment is so highly specialized that they did something that none of you guys could do? That really that is not accurate. You're being asked to believe a fairy tale at this point. You know what I mean? So again, I want to reiterate, I don't know what happened. I don't know, but I do know that Mr. Sam Brown and these others, the reactions, the things that are said during this press conference, it's not right. There's something there's something strange going on in Truckee, or perhaps the greater Nevada County. And that's as far as I can go. I don't know what it means, but I recognize BS when I see it. Now, before I start this video, the population of Truckee is 16,500. Okay, so look, my hometown I'm from is a little over 400 people. I'm from the country. The next closest town where I went to school and grew up was about 5,000 people. So when I see a town from 16,500, it's not exactly backwoodsy kind of thing. Now, in all of Nevada County, this is the county, not the city. In all of Nevada County, it's 102,000 people. Placer County has little over 400,000 people. So I want to be really careful about this because I want to be really fair about what I'm saying and giving my opinion on what I'm seeing. Of those 100,000 people, this is quite astonishing, really. Of those 100,000 people living in Nevada County around the Truckee area, 68% of that 100,000 live outside of the incorporated area. So these are there. A couple of the cops did say that Kiely Rodni's family were, for all intent purposes, they were living off the grid. And apparently a great number of people in this particular area are living off the grid. That there are a lot of I don't know if you want to call it prepper types, but during the 80s, from the 80s to the 90s, there was this huge population explosion going up into this area of the country. And then only 7% of population growth since that time. So something happened in the 80s. People left, went scurrying out there, and they've pretty much been there ever since. So there are what I'm trying to say is these are people, their personalities are a little bit different, I think. It's possible they're attracted to this area because they don't trust the man. They're not really, they don't believe everything they hear. They're skeptical of power and politicians. That could be a little bit about what's going on with this odd behavior happening during the press conference. But Sam Brown said some things that are pretty shocking. Um, One thing, no, I'm gonna wait and talk about that when I talk about Angela Musalam. Um, I'm looking at my notes. Hold on, make sure I don't miss anything before I get started. Yes, on Sunday he said they had 19,000 hours. That was on August 21st. He was bragging about having 19,000 man hours in. Adventures with Purpose arrived on August the 20th. They were pretty well encouraged to go to two other lakes. And then on August 21st, they said, hey, let's do this the way we know is right. And that is to go to the last known location and work from there. Sam Brown himself says in the early days of the investigation, I believe it was on the 8th, he says during a press conference, you go to you go to the last known location and you exhaust every inch of that before you move on. They did not do that. They overlooked, they ignored, they may have even misled people to stay away from that particular part of the lake, with the exception of Xana May. And Xana May had the uncanny ability to put her kayak in directly across from where Kiely's car was located. She went to the lakeside campground. She put her kayak in there. She went straight across, and then I suppose she must have paddled right over the car. And then she turned left and went up into the little creek area, and then up and straight to the sanctuary area. I mean, this girl, this is what you call this is what you call serendipity in her world. I mean, it's uncanny that she got so close. All right, so let me get this done. Hold on just a second. Share my audio. And we'll go to right here. Okay. Now, let me make sure y'all can see this before I get started. I think I'm going to take that background picture down. That's distracting. Okay, sorry. I know it's kind of slow and fumbly. All right. So the guy that's in the blue, he's a trip. he's 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 got some very strange mannerisms. He is the FBI agent that's there. They had three over the course of this investigation that I've been able to identify. So he's a curious fellow. He doesn't much like it when the Chips, California Highway Patrol, he doesn't like it when Chips does the talking. He gets really nervous. Chips is in charge of accident reconstruction, motor vehicle accident reconstruction, which is quite interesting considering why is he talking about a collision? So let's watch just the end of this because it highlights the curiosity of this FBI agent. And then we'll go to the beginning and then we'll just kind of go through the press conference and I'll stop and make comments on Sam Brown and why his comments are troubling.
There was a report that Adventures with Purpose was told by police that they did not need to search Foster, or at least.
Okay, look at Dad. He's dropped his head, but he's not escaping. when people drop their head, they're trying to like shut everything out, right? He's not. See how he's looking up? He's trying to look at the cops. But something is very important to these two people. Now, this is Kiely's dad, for those of you that don't know. I'm going to assume this is his new wife, or not new wife, but his current wife. So let's see how this goes.
In the specific area where the car was found, because that had been extensively searched already. Is that true?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably not accurate. And
okay, he just called Adventures with Purpose a liar. He calls them liars 3 different times in this one press conference.
we shared maps, ping information, and locations. And so we probably shared that was extensively searched and sonar was used, and that may add to the level of where they chose to go to first or last. However, nothing was prevented or shared, and I don't believe that we gave any indication that we thought we knew where she was at, because clearly from all of our daily press releases, we reported over and over again that we didn't know where she was at, and we needed anybody's help and assistance in finding that location.
But you were working in partnership with Adventure with Purpose.
Yeah, I believe that what ultimately occurred was that our sergeant was able to make contact with.
Okay, no. Sam, the answer you're looking for is no. We were not working together with Adventures with Purpose. So rather than him hawing around and trying to figure out how you're gonna get past that particular question, just try a little dose of honesty, Sam. When somebody says, "Hey, were you guys working together cooperatively with Adventures with Purpose?" Your proper answer is, "Well, no, we weren't. In fact, it took an hour." You want me to repeat that? An hour for this guy right here to say, "Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I was wrong. I guess Kiely was found." An hour. Now, my curiosity, because I think to myself, if I'm involved in an investigation looking for a missing girl, and I get a phone call from some YouTubers who specialize in looking for missing people, and they say, "I'm so sorry. We've located the car and there is a body in the car." I am going to be jumping up and down to get to the location. How about you guys? Is that what you're going to do? Are you going to freak? Are you going to be like, "Oh my God, they found her"? Oh my God. You're going to be running. You're going to show up right behind dad and grandpa, right? No, wrong. If you're Sam Brown. 1 hour. So my curiosity is, what was Detective Captain Brown, what was he doing for an hour? What was he doing for an hour? They were not working with Adventures with Purpose. They were not being cooperative with Adventures with Purpose. We've got that coming from his side. We've got it coming from Adventures with Purpose side. They were not working together cooperative. So remember Sammy? Remember when she came out and said, "No, this is a lie. It didn't happen"? I would suspect she got in touch with him and said, "Hey, is it true they found Kiely?" And he's, "Oh, no, they didn't find her. They're not even in the wrong lake. They're over 2 lakes away." 1 hour. Who was he talking to? What was he doing? From the time that he got the phone call from Adventures with Purpose to the time that he put out a statement and made his way down to the water, what was he doing? Who did he talk to? Okay. So I'm going to go.
We've been searching for.
And I'm going to pass over Sheriff Shannon. We didn't see hide nor hair of Sheriff Shannon at all. There we go. We want to watch Mr. Captain Sam. Look at these eyes. This is the man to watch. This guy too. This guy too's got some interesting knowing looks at a couple of the other law enforcement, but he's the one. This one, this one.
Captain Sam Brown from my agency will be happy to answer this question.
Yeah, thanks. The question was, is which agency requested? I'm not exactly sure that an agency had reached out and requested from within our unified command, but as everybody's reading online and seeing all the information that was coming out, and we realized that there was an interest from Adventures with Purpose, we did link up that group with Sergeant Mike Powers with the Placer County Sheriff's Office. They had lots of communication as
A part of me thinks as I write these names down and I get organized as to which law enforcement is coming from which area, which agency, I get the feeling that Adventures with Purpose may have been more involved with the California Highway Patrol and possibly the local police. But it doesn't look like Nevada was the one that they were really talking with.
as they were going to be traveling to this area, and then a lot of detailed information that was shared that wasn't necessarily out to the public yet that hopefully was of assistance to helping them locate the area to go to.
You said the car was found in the area where you've been searching since the beginning. What did AWP have that maybe you guys didn't have, or why was that missed in the initial search?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. That's one that everybody's going to have, right? Is how did we not find it when we were searching?
Okay. Now, a big tell for people and how they're feeling is their breath, right? So there's chest breathing, generally comes really shallow, really fast. This is like fight or flight preparation. And then there's belly breathing where the chest doesn't really hardly move at all. And the diaphragm is the main movement of the air. Belly breathing it can only happen when you're relaxed. If you begin to see someone opening their mouth and breathing in through their mouth, they're likely having a stress reaction. I want you to pay attention to the FBI agent when this question is asked.
Going to be
He's looking
traveling
pretty
to this
good right
area,
now.
and then
Look.
a lot of detailed information that was shared that wasn't necessarily out to the public yet that hopefully was of assistance.
Oh, yeah, that's a good thing to say,
locate the area
Sam.
to go to.
You said the car was found in the area where you've been searching since the beginning.
Watch him. Watch an FBI guy.
What did AWP have that maybe you guys didn't have, or why was that missed in the initial search?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. That's one that everybody's going to have, right? Is how did we not find it when we were searching? The lake was extensively searched with side sonar, with an ROV. We had divers, we had swimmers. I think that's part of what we're going to have to go back to do and debrief. You know, when peace officers are out in the field and volunteers and searchers, it doesn't mean that they're experts in the field, right? These are sometimes ancillary duties, and we're calling from other agencies to try to jump in. And tracking underwater is an extremely difficult thing to do. So I think part of our debrief on any of these situations is how do we figure out to improve our services, work on our resources and the way that we use them. A lot of this equipment is high end, very expensive, and you really need to have a lot of practice and expertise. And I think that's where a group like
He's having a hard time swallowing.
To focus and practice those skills and really hone them. And so we're appreciative that they were able to come out and locate it. I also don't want to take away though from anything from our volunteers as well as law enforcement that have been out there. I mean, we literally had people swimming in the water looking down so that we didn't disturb the ground initially.
I have a question. Have you ever like thrown like the weighted rings down to the bottom of the pool and then you'd swim down to try to retrieve them from the deep end, right? See who could get there first. You know, it's a bit hard to see unless you go under the water and open your eyes. If you're in the water and you're trying to look through the water down to the bottom, it's very difficult. In fact, if you were really good at it, you'd jump out of the pool, stand up on the side, look down, find it, and then dive back in, right? So to me, I'm so skeptical with this idea. Oh, well, we had them swimming on the top of the water. They just had to look down. I'm thinking, what?
My understanding is the vehicle was upside down. That also makes it more difficult. And if silt and things come up above, that can also make things difficult. So before I really can say, hey, why we weren't able to do it, I also could say that we eliminated a lot of areas that we would still be searching if we didn't have all the great people out there. And that helped give them some guidance as well, I think. But clearly their expertise in diving and their equipment that they brought to the table assisted us, and we appreciate that.
Do they specifically have any specific technology that all of these 16 law enforcement agencies would have?
I'll have to debrief with
No.
them before I'd have the answer to
No,
that question.
they
I believe
didn't.
They're trying to do that today.
No, they didn't.
The purpose has referenced red tape a couple times, saying they don't have the red tape that maybe your assisting agencies have. What is that red tape, and why might it be easier for a private organization to do this?
I don't know exactly what we're talking about in regards to red tape. I think that from the very beginning, we never deterred anybody other than certain scenes that we closed off at times that became areas of interest and we wanted to protect for evidence. So I don't know that there was any red tape ever put on this. I mean, if you look at the amount of man hours that went into it, it was like over 15,000. And I know it's even higher than that now. I don't think there was ever red tape. There were maps created for civilians to be out, the boat ramp and the.
So now the fast talking happens, right? Now they're uncomfortable. This guy is the only one who is showing no emotional distress, right? This guy back here, on the back right, on your right, he's really uncomfortable quite a bit. He would be a terrible poker player. This guy too, terrible poker player, and at one point he begins to talk to himself. He's so overwhelmed. And Sam isn't prepared for this press conference. He's not prepared to give a cogent answer to the questions that you and I have been asking, along with all these reporters and family members and friends. Everybody's asking the same questions. What the hell? You're her last known location. She was pinging, and that phone, the area of confidence, was more water than it was land. You're standing there at the land looking around. There's clearly nothing there. There's no woods. There's zero anything there. It doesn't occur to you she's in that damn water. It's so shady.
In the lake were never actually shut down, because the way we were looking at it is more eyes out there, the better off we're going to be for finding Kiely, and that was continually the goal. So I'm not sure.
Okay, but Mr. Investigator, question. When you say more eyes out there, the better for your goal, what about the Suzanne Morphew case? You bring in all of these people traipsing around. What happens to the possibility of any evidence that gets left out there? You're in California. Why didn't you get in touch and get somebody's bloodhound and come out and search the water? A bloodhound would have found her car in moments. So I'm not sure I understand. You're supposed to be a big, important investigator from the big city. You're the captain in charge of investigations. My question is, what was your goal? To have many people come in and out and the car's right there? My understanding is that you were stopping people from swimming to that area.
Sure that there was ever red tape. I think it comes down to lots of factors, and like I said, we're going to debrief and try to figure out how do we become better and do a better job at these types of operations.
Why did agencies believe it was an abduction at first?
Yeah, I think that.
Okay, y'all remember, there was no Amber Alert. Why? They have 3 requirements for an Amber Alert. Why wasn't there an Amber Alert done on this young woman that Sammy Smith says, oh, I left her in her car. She's driving home. She's in her car. Why wasn't there an Amber Alert put out? They knew the car she was in. They're all saying, "Oh, it could be an abduction." Once you look at the way this guy's looking at him, he's like, "This one's on you, Hoss. Let me hear what you got to say." Look at the look on his face. They all know what's about to come.
There was a lot of miscommunication. I don't know that it was ever.
Oh, we're going to blame it on miscommunication. That this group of elites are saying, "Oh, I think it's probably an abduction." California Highway Patrol is going, "Hey guys, is she abducted or not? Because we can't do an Amber Alert unless you have reason to believe she's abducted. We need to know. Do you know what car she's in?" They absolutely, according to the California law, they absolutely could have done an Amber Alert. Now, it wouldn't have helped. Okay, she's in the water. It wouldn't have helped. However, it just shows you the poor level of decision making that was happening, in my opinion.
Labeled as.
Pay attention to our esteemed FBI agent. He's got his mouth tight. His mouth is clamped down tight. He's willing Sam Brown to quit talking.
An abduction. I think that you can never take that off the table. And so as we
Sam, what you doing, Sam? You need to shut up. We talked about this. This is not what we wanted. The fewer words, the better, Sam. What are you doing? Watch his face.
In Unified Command with all my partners that you see behind us, you couldn't remove that off the table because we hadn't found her. And so...
damn, Sam. I'm serious. Who wants to play the role of FBI agent and voice what the thoughts that are in his head? He is looking at Sam Brown right now going, "You son of a bitch. What are you doing? Be quiet." Can you see it on his face? This guy right here is going, "Why am I up here? Why did I have to stand up here with Harry, Larry, and Mo?"
That was some of the struggles with some of the services that we wanted to obtain and things we wanted to do, but we couldn't say it wasn't an abduction, but we also never said that.
Did you see his face? That's one of my favorite moments. We're gonna have to rewind that. We're gonna have to slow it down just to get the sheer joy of the look of absolute shock that Sam cannot shut up. Watch FBI agent as old Sam keeps on talking. Okay, let me go back just a little bit. Watch the FBI.
And with all my partners that you see behind us, you couldn't remove that off the table because we hadn't found her. And
what the hell? I love the look on his face.
Some of the struggles with some of the services that we wanted to obtain and things we wanted.
Oh shit. I'm sorry. I'll find it.
Peace officers are out in the field and volunteers and searchers work on our resources and the way that we use them. A lot of this equipment is high-end, very expensive, and you really need to have a scientists.
This is not true, what he's saying. You do know how to, you do have to understand how to use the sonar. Um, but a good fisherman can take you out in the boat one day and explain how it works. Now, clearly, you're looking for an unusual object like a, you know, a motor vehicle that's at the bottom of a lake. It's not supposed to be there. Then that would definitely be different. But this idea that, you know, the equipment or whatever would be out of range, $100,000 whatever, I don't think that's true. In fact, there was a local who is a professional diver. He's certified in open water dives, meaning out in the ocean. He said they had 10 fully charged oxygen packs, uh, uh, cans, and he reached out 2 or 3 different times telling them, hey, I got all my equipment. I'm ready to dive. Just let me know where and when you want me to do it. I'm here. Let me help. I know this reservoir like the back of my hand. I've got all of the equipment I need. I've got support to help me. We do this, you know, as hobbies, and we're here. They never called him back. They never called him back.
And expertise. And I think that's where a group like Adventures with Purpose is able to focus and practice those skills and really hone them. And so we're appreciative that they were able to come out and locate it. I also don't want to take away, though, from anything from our volunteers as well as law enforcement that have been out there. I mean, we literally had people swimming in the water looking down so that we didn't disturb the ground initially. You know, my understanding is the vehicle was upside down. That also makes it more difficult. And if silt and things come up above, that can also make things difficult. So
Um, so you know, he keeps saying that the vehicle's upside down. My understanding is that it was upside down, but it was also tilted on the side, right? You figure if you're in 11 to 14 foot of water and a car is generally 6.5 feet wide, you're still looking at about 5-6 feet of water for the highest part of the vehicle. Maybe even less than that because it was sort of sitting, you know, at an angle. It is hard for me to accept this narrative that he's got going on. And I'm feeling like as he says this, these are excuses, you know. Let's be honest here. Of course it doesn't feel good. Of course it doesn't feel good to be law enforcement and you're going every day to your press conferences and you're bragging about the number of man hours and all that you've, you know, done and whatnot, and come up empty handed, but you've still put in these hours. And he loves to say, oh, we're all tired like the family. No, Sam, you're not tired like the family. It's an embarrassment that you said that, you know, multiple times during this press conference. It seemed more like a distraction from, you know, they feel bad, and you can understand that. That's a human reaction. Nobody would fault them for that. But I think where they go so dramatically wrong, I think what left me such a bad taste is how many times he blatantly says that Adventures with Purpose is lying. He says they are lying 3 times in this press conference, and the absurdity of the excuses that he's providing. Now he's about to say one of the biggest. And that is that in the days from the time that she went missing to 14 days later when they find her body, that the water was on the shore, the water was 3.5 feet further up on the shore. Now, there's a lot in terms of the mechanics of the water movement, water dynamics. The incline of the shoreline is going to the incline of the shoreline, the total number of acreage, the total volume of water in the lake, all of those things go into play into the calculations for if your water goes up 3.5 feet higher onshore, depending on whatever your incline is. What does that do to the depth of the rest of the lake? Right? If your lake is filled with enough water to rise the level that it will go up 3.5 feet, what happens to the total depth of the water, like any other place in the lake? Let's just say the deepest part of the lake. Incidentally, this area where Kiely's car was found, if she'd gone out about another 50 yards, she would have been in the deepest part of the reservoir. Isn't that interesting? So, in here on the ocean, you can figure that if you get 100 feet of water coming inland, if your water rises on land 100 feet, that equates to 1 inch over the total depth of the entire ocean. So he's trying to say 3.5 feet would have made it 25 feet in the middle of the ocean, of the lake. He's got that ass backwards. If it had gone up 25 feet on the shore, you would have expected just a fraction of increase in the middle of the lake. A fraction. Like in decimal points, like a 10,000th of the total encroachment on land. So he says it backwards. He says that the water going up 3 feet means the lake got 25 feet deeper. That is simply absolutely silly and false. Water stays the same surface level, and it will fill into little nooks and crannies. It only begins to rise when there's nowhere else for the water to go. So you can't have like one end of your lake being 5 feet higher than the other end of your lake, because all the water would rush downhill. Water is even. Water is flat for the most part, right? I'm not talking about the waves, but it's in a pond or a lake, it's flat. Now, if the moon goes over, the gravitational pull of the moon will pull a swell up in the water, and that swell will travel with the moon. That's what kind of part of the tides. But in a lake, a reservoir, no, water maintains a surface level. Now, at the bottom, the total amount can ebb and flow, but the surface will remain the same. It will fill into nooks and crannies until it can't go anywhere else. And once it's full and it can't go anywhere else, then the levels will begin to rise. So he says, well, it was 3.5 feet higher at the time this happened. Well, probably because they were draining it off. They were draining the water out. So his logic is wrong. His logic, it doesn't make any sense. That if it was 3.5 feet higher on land, then it would be 25 feet higher out in the water. Even if he was just saying 3.5 feet higher on land would have made the location of the car 25 feet of water instead of 14 feet of water, he's still completely wrong in understanding that you get a big rise at the shore, which equates to very little change in the actual depth of the water. So he's looking for excuses.
before I really can say, hey, why we weren't able to do it, I also could say that we eliminated a lot of areas that we would still be searching if we didn't have all the great people out there, and that helped give them some guidance as well, I think. But clearly,
Okay, Sam, you're the one that said back on the 8th or the 9th, you go the best practices for investigating. You go to the last verified location and you exhaust the possibilities there. Once you have investigated and exhausted the possibilities at the last known location, you begin to spread out from there. So why are you saying, oh, well, our 19,000 man hours was not wasted time because we searched a whole lot of places that she wasn't? She was 55 feet away from where you were standing. How is that exhausting the last known location? You had a ping that was in the water. It keep watching the FBI agent.
their expertise in diving and their equipment that they brought to the table assisted us, and we appreciate that.
Did they specifically have any specific technology that all of these 16 law enforcement agencies didn't have?
No.
I'll have to debrief with them before I'd have the answer to that question. I believe we're going to try to do that today.
Adventures with a Purpose has referenced red tape a couple times, saying they don't have the red tape that maybe your assisting agencies have. What is that red tape, and why might it be easier for a private organization to do this?
I don't know exactly what we're talking about in regards to red tape. I think that from the very beginning, we never deterred anybody other than certain scenes that we closed off at times that became areas of interest and we wanted to protect for evidence. So I don't know that there was any red.
Now, one of those scenes was I call it the boat ramp. It may not be a boat ramp, but that area that Kiely's car drove off of. That was an area that was shut down in the early days. Everybody thought, divers are coming, and they didn't. There were divers in other parts of the lake. There were drones, there were helicopters. But again, you're in California. You've got deep sea divers. Why weren't you on the phone calling San Francisco, somebody to come and look? Keep watching the FBI guy.
Red tape ever put on this. I mean, if you look at the amount of man hours that went into it, it was like over 15,000.
19,800.
Now, I don't think there was ever red tape. There were maps created for civilians to be out. The boat ramp in the lake were never actually shut down because the way we were looking at it is more eyes out there, the better off we're going to be for.
Now, I believe when he says the boat ramp in the lake, I think he's talking about the big boat ramp that's across from, is it Alders Stream? If you go up and to the left, there's a big boat ramp with a big parking area. I think that's what he's talking about. But this little area where her car was found, that was an area that was cut off.
For finding Kiely, and that was continually the goal. So I'm not sure that there was ever red tape. I think it comes down to lots of factors. And like I said, we're going to debrief and try to figure out how do we become better and do a better job at these types of operations.
Why did agencies believe it was an abduction at first?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of miscommunication. I don't know that it was ever labeled as an abduction. I think that you can never take that off the table. And so as we talked as a command group and unified command with all my partners that you see behind us, you couldn't remove
FBI guys really uncomfortable.
And so, that was some of the struggles with some of the services that we wanted to obtain and things we wanted to do, but we couldn't say it wasn't an abduction, but we also never
look
said
at the look on his face.
I think that was clarified fairly early on. But we also probably wouldn't have received all the services and all the people if that wasn't an option. If this was truly a search and rescue mission, we may not have had all the resources to conduct interviews. I think they identified over 400 juveniles, and to be able to interview all those folks and provide feedback off of all that, it takes an army of people. And
Okay, now this is interesting, right? He says, I believe there were 400 juveniles. I'm going to assume he's talking about 400 kids that were at the party, right? Or let's even make it easier. 400 people at the party. Now we never heard 400 people. We were told 200, 300. But he's saying there were 400 juveniles and they never would have been able to talk to them all. Isn't that a curious statement? What was the goal? To look for the car. Ostensibly, you find the car, you find Kiely, correct? Was the goal in his investigation, his planning, his outline for how the investigation was going to move forward? Was it to find the car, or was it to talk to the partiers? Because this part here, he all but admits that the goal was to talk to all the kids. And that's very confusing, isn't it? Because we've got the information officer who says they're not cooperating. There's adults in the community that are saying, keep your mouth shut. Very interesting, isn't it? Well, why did they need to talk to all the kids? What was going on that rather than seeking a large car, they're instead tracking down 400 kids? When it's all over the news, come talk to us, bring us your photographs, bring us your pictures. What's happening that the focus becomes on the kids?
I think we were lucky to be able to put that together between my partners and agencies that are right behind me.
Did any of the juveniles, anybody mention a car going over the side, a car in the water on all those?
I don't believe that statement was made, not to my knowledge.
Was there any indication that this was an accident or foul play?
That's still being investigated. If we'd like, we could turn it over for CHP can give some information.
Oh, FBI didn't like that, did he? Did you see him jerk his head around? He doesn't like the California Highway Patrol. Every time they get up to talk, he gets very uncomfortable. And notice the other guy. Who's he looking at? As this guy jerked his head around like, what? What? CHP? Chips? No, I don't want Chips talking. This guy looks right him in the face like, oh, okay, what do we do now, sir? Keep an eye on FBI guy.
They are conducting the accident investigation utilizing their MATE team.
Good morning, Josh Ellers.
FBI guy is very uncomfortable. Now, of all of the guys that are involved in this thing, Detective Ellers seems to be the most relaxed. He seems to be the only one up there acting completely normal, like you would expect. Well, the local police, he is doing pretty good. But this guy from California Highway Patrol, he's good. He's fine. He's perfectly relaxed. This one, not relaxed. I don't know what's wrong with him, but he's not relaxed. This one back over here, on the right side of the screen in the green, he's not relaxed either. But for this video, keep your eye on the FBI agent. It's amazing.
Assistant Chief with CHP Valley Division, Sacramento.
He is girding his loins in preparation for whatever is about to happen.
Which Truckee's a part of. I can confirm that our department is conducting a fatality.
He says, I can do this. I can get through this.
Traffic collision investigation. We're harnessing all of our resources, working with all of our partners here. As you see, we're utilizing our MATE team, our multidisciplinary accident investigation team, to harness more data from the vehicle that was recovered. Also, we've utilized all of our air resources to map and video and
What in the hell is that? What is that? What is he doing? I'm going to replay this. I'm going to slow it down so that you'll see what it is that I'm amazed by. And maybe you guys can explain it to me. Okay, so he's clearly not happy that Chips is talking. Chips is investigating the collision. All right, so keep an eye on FBI guy.
Investigation team to harness more data from the vehicle that was recovered. Also, we've utilized all of our air resources to map and video and take photographs of the area in question.
Watch him. Keep watching.
And that's currently ongoing.
Keep watching.
I can't comment on the nature and details of that investigation, but I certainly
He looks
appreciate
right
all
at the FBI agent,
partnership
speaks directly to him.
we have
FBI
here
agent
with our
swallows really hard.
local county and state partners, and will continue to assist in any overarching way that we can as an agency.
Thank you, California Highway Patrol.
Close vehicle was the actual party site.
I don't have the exact
Keep watching, FBI agent.
location in terms of distance, but it was relatively close to the area in question. Like a few hundred yards or half a mile. I couldn't say. I haven't seen the exact data and the map.
That would be 55 feet.
Still ongoing.
Look at the FBI agent.
Many partygoers leave by the same route. This is, I can't comment on all that, but what I can tell you is, and I think it's been discussed, is this is a very popular area.
All right. Very interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. I know it's weird. The slowed down sound is kind of make you crazy. I'm gonna do it one more time at 0.75. It won't sound as weird. But now that you see how bizarre his reaction is, obviously there's something happening here.
Truckee's a part of. I can't confirm that our department is conducting a fatality traffic collision investigation. We're harnessing all of our resources, working with all of our partners here. As you see, we're utilizing our MATE team, our multidisciplinary accident investigation team, to harness more data from the vehicle that was recovered. Also, we've utilized all of our air resources to map and video and take photographs of the area in question. And
Wow.
that's
Wow.
ongoing. So
Wow. Crazy. Now, the other thing I want you to pay attention to, look at this guy and the FBI guy. Who are they looking at? This is a long gaze. Like if you go ahead and play the whole thing out, it's a long, they're looking, I believe they're either looking at the sheriff or they're looking at the guy in the blue uniform. So I think that CHIPS, the California Highway Patrol, is not in this. I don't, whatever it was that happened that these guys are so uncomfortable with, they do. Yes, Bond, absolutely. And thank you, Adventures for Purpose. They're the good guys. Adventures with Purpose, that's the cavalry. After watching this press conference and seeing this, I have zero doubt that the cryptic messaging that we got from Adventures with Purpose was real. What did they say? They say something about that now that the biggest piece of the evidence has been found, that there's going to be some really heavy stuff come out. Do y'all remember that? And everybody thought, wow, what does that mean? That's kind of crazy. Our brains are designed to make things make sense. Sammy's stories, where cars were, locals denied, teenage meetings, no adults, 400 teenagers, no picture, make it make sense. We're trying, Be Botanical. There's some funny, there is a story here. And I started this live today saying, I don't know what this means. I do not know what it means, but I know there's something wrong. That's right, Botanical, 100%. There's something wrong here in this group of law enforcement officers. Specifically in this group, Brown, the man next to him, and the FBI agent, these three, they're going to be the spotlight of the next few days for me in my lives. Heavy stuff. That's right, Natalie. Heavy stuff. It is this is a case where there's a great deal of room for wild speculation, and then there's this. I can sit here, I love wild speculation, right? The fact that her car, if it had just gone a little bit further, it would have actually ended up in the deepest part of the reservoir. I can speculate with that. The skepticism in me, I can look at that and go, well, that would be very convenient if you were a guy trying to cover up an accident or worse. So there's a couple of steps to this thing. And the first is to simply define what happened. Understand. Somebody, Botanical says, make it make sense. We got 400 young people out there. We don't have a single photograph. We don't have a single photograph or video. We all know what our kids did when they went to parties. We all know what we did when we went to parties. There's photographs, there's video. If there was a party, where is it? Where's the evidence, right? Make it make sense. Sammy's stories that are just evolving and changing with the landscape, kind of like the 4 seasons of the year. She just says whatever she needs to say in the moment. The location of the car being where her last known location was, which was the ping from her phone. The stories that Sammy told, and they weren't supported by the evidence that finally emerged. The black sweatshirt, it's not supported by the evidence. The phone call at 12:36, not supported by the evidence. So, bring your kids, drop them off, drive away quickly. Don't look back. I am the one that's supposed to get the information. The police officers want me to find out who has credible information, and then I'll give it to them. Why? Are we destroying telephones? Is the FBI there to teach people how to destroy telephones and computers like they did in, some high profile political cases? I don't know why. I don't know what this means. I just know that what I'm looking at doesn't make sense to me. Now, I love opposing thoughts. I look at this and I see a problem. I look at this and I see an FBI agent with an agenda. I see an FBI agent that has in his mind a way that he would like this thing to turn out. And I see California Highway Patrol, he seems unburdened. California Highway Patrol seems like a guy who is at a press conference putting factual information out for the masses. Isn't that who you see? I don't see a guy with a care in the world. But this FBI agent over here and Mr. Brown, they are burdened. There is something happening with these two guys. They're uncomfortable. When they say, "Oh, we're going to get him Ehlers to come up with California Highway Patrol," the FBI, I think he got whiplash from jerking his head around so fast. Like, what? What? You're going to let him talk? No. Is he not in the loop? Maybe he's not part of the story. Maybe he doesn't know what the official storyline is. I'm going to say this again, and I mean this. I am a support the cops, toe the blue line. My kids were raised to respect law enforcement. There was once upon a time that I would have believed any single word that came out of an FBI agent's mouth. That ship has sailed. They earned it. There is something happening here during this press conference that is not normal. Not normal. That cop turned into a tomato right before our eyes. You're talking about the one in the back? Yeah, I know. We're going to talk about him tomorrow. I don't know what's happening here, but something interesting is happening. The fact that Sam Brown calls Adventures with Purpose liars 3 times in this press conference. I know who I believe. Do you know who you believe? So, Sam, you got a problem. You're not going to be able to get away with calling Adventures with Purpose a liar because they have proven themselves to be trustworthy. They have proven themselves to be honorable. People that are on YouTube frequently, they know them and they trust them. They give money to them to support their company and their goals. You are just a guy that has 19,000 man hours and didn't find a broken fingernail, So 3 times he said they lied. And you cannot ignore that Adventures with Purpose, when they found Kiely, they called the parents first. And what do you want to bet? This is a guess, 100% guess on my part. I bet the law enforcement that they called, I bet they called California Highway Patrol. What do you want to bet? I bet they called California Highway Patrol. I bet that's who they trusted. I bet they bypassed Nevada County, Prosser County, FBI. I bet they went straight to this guy right here. And that's why it took an hour for Sam Brown to get to make a statement and get down to the water. Do you know how long an hour is? Sit down and watch the clock for an hour. It's a long time. You can do a lot of things in 1 hour. You're going to tell me for more than 2 weeks you have been searching high and low, day and night, looking for this young lady, and you get professional divers out there and they call and they say, we have found the car. You are going to tell me that you're not going to drop whatever you're doing and hit the road on the way to the water, right? It took him 1 hour. It's fascinating. We don't know what he was doing. We don't know where he was. We don't know what happened, but 1 hour. All right. So now comes the time for the haters. Okay. I'm curious. If you think that I'm being ridiculous, if you think this looks perfectly natural and normal and there's nothing unusual happening here, then I'm going to put a link and you can come up and explain to me how there's absolutely nothing wrong with what you see happening here. There is no reason, Donna. There's no reason for them to lie. None whatsoever. And the fact that they said, you know, based on what Sam Brown said, they chose to go to 2 different ponds. They came up empty-handed, and they said, okay, let's regroup. Let's go back to best practices. Let's do this the right way. And let's go back to the last known location. And that's how they ended up back over right there where the car was. They went back to where the ping was. And then they proceeded to search like they were supposed to. And Sam Brown says on, it's either August the 8th or 9th. I'll go back and try to find it. He says either the press conference on the 8th or the 9th, he says, and he's the one in charge of the investigation, he says that the first thing, you start out at the last known location, you exhaust your options there, and then you work out from that last known location. He says it. He knows what he was supposed to do. He knows what he was supposed to do. So that leads us then to, okay, is there something nefarious happening here? Was there something a bit underhanded? I don't think they're incompetent, not by a long shot. I don't believe they're incompetent at all. Is there something nefarious? Did they intentionally look the other way? Or perhaps they had something personal at stake and it made it easy to look the other way. There's a lot that could have resulted in this. Now, I think it was AK. I think AK, yeah. AK says 100% cops being embarrassed. That's it. That's all. That's what I thought too. And then I ran across this perspective. And when I watched the same press conference from this angle, and you can watch the FBI agent, no. He's not embarrassed. Nope, not embarrassed. He shows anger. He shows frustration. He shows fear. a couple of times there's even maybe he's bordering on panic, high anxiety at least, right? So I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means, but I know something's wrong. Something's going on here. I have a hard time believing that someone would call another person a liar. You know what, Patrick? I wondered exactly that. I have some reasons. I ran across some stuff about Sheriff Moon. So Patrick says Sam Brown lives in a 20,000 person community. We know everything. He is not the issue. The Sheriff Shannon Moon would be, he is doing what he is told. The only thing I see that AWP did was take Stone coordinates and drove right up to the scene. Other than that, they're absolutely fabulous. They are fabulous, Anonymous. They're and that's what I said, Anonymous, that Adventures with Purpose really are not in a position to pull. Let me say it this way: be involved in a game, so to speak. That's not really a choice they're going to make. And the reason that I believe that would not be a choice that they would make would be because they've put together a company, a business that is really unique. It's very successful in spite of how unique it is. They've chosen a business model, advertising and everything, basically going on YouTube and saying, here we are, this is what we do, and we're going to take you along every step of the way. Trust us. And they're showing what they do. And their whole business model is based on people believing them and trusting them. If they violate that trust, the support breaks down. So no, I don't think, I don't think they do it just because their background and history, they're good people. But if we want to just be really just kind of cold evaluation with no emotion in it, no, I think it would work completely against them and the way that they've orchestrated this company and their success. No, I think they recognize that their word has to be beyond reproach. I think they recognize they have to be absolutely forthright and honest to being held accountable by everyone watching them. 2 million people, basically. The fact that they found her and the first phone call they make is to her parents, they know. They know something.
Was there more than one body in the vehicle?
No, there was not more than one body in the vehicle.
What do you think? Yeah. Yeah, something strange. Yeah, some of the questions are awful. Crime Story. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Right, maybe a mama. It just goes from bad to worse, doesn't it? All the cops look like they need a Snickers. It's look, it's not a funny situation. Okay, it is not funny. Um, I think what, to me, the reason that it makes me laugh is the clearly this FBI agent I mean, the other cops look upset too, but the FBI agent looks particularly in distress, afraid. He looks afraid. He looks worried. And so it makes me think. Well, first of all, I called AWP a liar 3 times. They're not lying. We know they're not lying. So my question is, why do you need to lie? What kind of skin do you have in the game that you feel the need to lie? Then we find out they basically told AWP to get away as they locked down the scene before pulling the car out. Well, that fine thanks AWP gets, they're the ones that found the car and the little girl. So, you just get the feeling that there's some foolish shenanigans going on behind the scenes. And these guys, 3 of them, seem to be involved in it. And, you can only hope bad deeds get revealed, right? That's the best that we can hope for, especially when a young lady has lost her life, If these guys were up to something, it needs to come out, period.